Shabbat Shalom, everyone. On January 27th, 1922, Jewish year 5682, SAJ held its first Shabbat service a few doors down at 41 West 86th Street, 10 days after the Society for the Advancement had been established. On January 29th, 2022, 5782, SAJ inaugurated its centennial year. In the midst of a snowstorm, and when COVID was even more scary, even though it's still scary, SAJers miraculously found their way to this sanctuary, and many others joined on Zoom. Who was there last year, either on Zoom or at home? And with Rabbis Deborah Waxman and Michael Strassfeld, with local partners and friends of SAJ, pastors, and with elected officials in person and online, that included a spontaneous blessing to Representative Jerry Nadler, for all of those who were there. We marked the significance of the moment with SAJ's signature mix of reverence and joy, with kavod, honor for our past, and determination and hope for our future. And today, 1 year later, we gather to celebrate the 101st anniversary of SAJ. As we walk and prepare ourselves to walk boldly into the next century, I want to invite us to ask an important question. It's not a new question, it's an ancient one. It comes, in fact, from this week's Torah portion, Bo. As the ancient Israelites received instruction for the very first Passover observance in human history, the Torah asks a question. Ma ha'avodah hazot lachem? What is this service to you? In the context of this Torah portion, the question itself is both surprising and instructive. The people are hearing this while they themselves are still slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. They are dreaming and praying for freedom, which they hear is coming imminently. And then they hear the word avodah. That word is not random. It is purposeful. It means service. But the root avodah can also be used for service as a slave. So in this moment, the people are hearing that while they are soon going to not be slaves in Egypt, not be slaves to Pharaoh, they also learn that freedom does not mean vacation. Freedom does not mean do whatever you want. Rather, freedom in Judaism is freedom to serve. Their life will soon be filled with obligations to something higher. And as they soon learn, will be filled with obligations to one another and as a community as a whole. Their future life will be one of sacred service. Further, they learn that their service will mean something not only to themselves, but their children and the generations to come. For in this text, it is not God who asks the people, Ma ha'avodah hazot lachem. The narrator puts this question on the lips of the future generation. According to this passage, it is your children that will ask you what this service means to you, and you will need to answer them. This question is a source for how we structure our Passover Seder, as a teaching to the children about the story of exile and freedom and what it meant to us and our ancestors. It is a question that exists among the generations that never has one answer. It is a question that exists door l'dor, generation to generation, ad olam, forever and ever. As such, this question of Parshat Bo is not only one for our ancient Israelites. It is one that every generation has to answer. It is one that every individual can answer in their own way. So I ask all of us today, as we move into this century, what does this avodah, this sacred work, the sacred work of Judaism, of community, of SAJ in particular, mean to you, mean to us? What does it mean for the broader community and the world? And as we ask and answer, let's take some time to pause and look back and consider the holy, sacred avodah of this past year. Following in the metaphorical footsteps of the divine, let us marvel at all that has been created and accomplished and acknowledge Tov Ma'od, this is very good. In this past year, we accomplished so much, and I'm going to highlight 5 things, and I'm sure there are many more. But first, we brought more joy and beauty into our lives and into the world this year. We began dancing the hora in a snowstorm. We sang along fellow cantors, former cantors, and we also created new works of music that will bless the entire Jewish people, with Cantor Lisa's amazing original song, Hineni, about the first bat mitzvah, and a newly commissioned song, Baruch Haba, which we just sang for our 100th anniversary, commissioned a brand new piece of music. And at our SAJ Gala, we embodied the truth that joy is not a luxury, it is fuel for the work of community and tikkun olam, repair of the world. Number 2, we began to see ourselves, and I'm looking at some of you in particular, and I know who you are, the way that historians see us, as an institution that changed the landscape of American Judaism. Thanks to the behind-the-scenes work and mostly not seen work of our scholars, our archivists, our editors, our interviewers, our artists, and our tech wizards, we have brought to life our history through a visual exhibit, a one-of-a-kind interactive virtual exhibit, member reflections, and I'm excited to share with you that we have conducted oral histories this year as well, and that in the coming few months, they will be available to all of us to see online. Number 3, this is a biggie. We made the Jewish community a more equitable and a more inclusive place through the 100th anniversary. And I will say that again, it may sound chutzpahdik, but I will tell you how. We made the Jewish community more equitable and more inclusive through the 100th anniversary. When we created a national celebration of the first ever bat mitzvah that happened 6 weeks after the start of SAJ in 1922, we did not simply mark a historic event. We brought it to life through the creative and amazing at Judith Kaplan 1922 Instagram story project, through a far-reaching social media campaign that included famous Jews like Mayim Bialik posting their bat mitzvah stories because of us. SAJ and bat mitzvah were featured in the LA Jewish Journal, Teen Vogue, the podcast Chutzpah, and at least a dozen or 24 more. We co-created the National Rise Up Shabbat with the Jewish Women's Archives, engaging 19 national partners of all denominations. And as a result, hundreds of communities across the country and even across the world recognized and celebrated the role of girls and women in transforming American Jewish life. We provoked conversations also in congregations and among Jewish leaders about how to expand this Jewish coming of age experience for non-binary and transgender youth, expanding the boundaries of Jewish tradition, just like Mordecai Kaplan did when he wanted his daughters to participate in bat mitzvah. Number 4, we became a stronger community, engaging a record number of 153 volunteers in our Centennial efforts. And just as Moses, when Moses asked for contributions from the community and the community responded beyond his wildest dreams, so too we have been overwhelmed by the generosity of this community and affirmed in the knowledge that each contribution, no matter how small, no matter how big, matters. Number 5, we have contributed to the ongoing dialogue and conversation of the Jewish people, adding our voices to a conversation that spans millennia. Through Tish's, guest speakers, our impressive symposium, and other forums, we brought teachers of great renown to help us probe the big questions of Judaism of today and the Judaism of tomorrow. And through the many forums we held this year, SAJ engaged in our count, and we're still trying to get an exact count, in the ballpark of 1,000 distinct individuals in these conversations. Members, alumni, fellow Reconstructionists around the country, and just other folks that were interested in the conversations we were having. When I first came to SAJ, I often heard long-term members describe our congregation as the best kept secret on the Upper West Side. I think I can safely say that after this spectacular year and all we have accomplished and all the places we have reached, the secret is out. Now, of course, we have to keep it that way. So now let's return to the question of the Parsha, Ma ha'avodah hazot lachem. What does this service of community mean to you? The Centennial Steering Committee, our board, our clergy and staff saw our 100th anniversary not only as a time of celebration, but also a time of building for that next generation. We have been asking our community essentially that question: what does this work mean to you? And have been developing a campaign in response to those many conversations over the past year and more. Today, we are stepping forward to announce the second phase of SAJ's Next Century campaign. The campaign brings forward the vision we developed together to advance Judaism by embodying a Judaism that stands for all, and a school where kids run towards, and a synagogue where all can come for study, for Shabbat, study, and social justice. Shabbat, study, and social justice. The campaign, those words are on our website, what I just said. The campaign will first ensure that we can come together in this space, in this 100-year-old building, for Shabbat and other gatherings. This space is a holy one. For many, it is not simply a place where we meet, it is a place where you might have gotten married or named your children or celebrated some other important milestone in your life. It is where we can experience the living community with all of us present, and where we can bring into our hearts and mind all the SAJ members we have lost and feel them in this room, in this space. Improvements to the building, to our holy space, will enable the next generation to create their own sacred memories, their own service here. The campaign will next ensure that our young people can gather to study, specifically through our Pella and Makom community. We are blessed with a thriving intergenerational school where kids literally do run towards, and where sometimes we have a hard time getting them to leave at the end of Kiddush. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if even more people knew about our inclusive, values-driven, serious, and joyful educational Jewish experience? Wouldn't it be fantastic if we could meet people before they come into our doors, where they are? Through broader outreach and new public space programming, we will cultivate a new generation that can answer the question, what is this service to you? And third, last, the campaign will ensure that we can gather together to pursue social justice. SAJ will establish a ascetic lab. This is a little different from those who were at the congregational meeting last year. We've made updates. Ascetic laboratory that will consider programming, staffing, educational initiatives, and partnerships to make a greater impact on our neighborhood, our city, and our country. In a time of encroaching fascism that leads to increased marginalization, what would it be like if we could truly stand up as a Jewish community for democracy and for freedom? In a time of raging anti-Semitism, what would it be like if we could strengthen our interfaith relationships that protect us and other marginalized groups? What would it be like if future generations that come after us will tell the story of how we left the world better than when we found it? I want to be very clear. These three pieces are not the whole of SAJ, and they do not in any way diminish our ongoing commitment to arts and culture, services and spirituality, and adult learning, which are going to continue to grow and strengthen as we continue to grow and strengthen. But we chose these three areas because they are building blocks that help us be a Judaism that stands for all, and a Judaism that helps us stay in conversation with the generations about the service, the importance, the meaning of the work that we do. At the end of services, everyone will be getting a SAJ Next Century campaign case for giving, so you can read more about our hopes and our dreams. And because a centennial anniversary only comes once every 100 years, and we set an ambitious fundraising goal, $1.5 million, with individuals giving over 3 years. Words cannot properly express how excited, appreciative, and proud I am to share that we have so far raised nearly $1 million to our Next Century campaign. $925,000 and $925 and $700 to be exact. So for everyone who has pledged and been asked, we thank you. For those who have not been approached yet, please know today we are not asking for your donation. Over the next 5 or so months, we're going to reach out to people individually and in small groups and ask you, Ma ha'avodah hazot lachem? What does this work of sacred community mean to you? What of these three areas speaks to your connection to SAJ and the legacy you want to give to the next generation? And in the spirit of SAJ, we are aiming for as close to 100 participation as possible, and we want your help in building our future, no matter the size of your gift. So before we close, I want to take one more step back. We are poised to enter into the next century with renewed strength, vision, hope, and confidence. And I hope that everyone here, whether you have been here 5 minutes or 50 years, is so proud of what we have done in this past year. And I hope and pray that everyone can find an answer in their hearts, or an emerging answer to what this holy service means to you. I'm so excited to learn from you, to partner with you, and to continue to make SAJ a blessing for us, for the next generations to come.